morning. Psalm 77 is a psalm written by Asaph. He was one of the Israelite songwriters, and he starts out the psalm crying out to God and seeking Him. And in verse 3, it tells us that Asaph was complaining to God, and his spirit, it says, was overwhelmed. He explains that he had trouble sleeping, and he was so troubled that he couldn't even speak. Does that sound familiar, perhaps? Have you been complaining lately? Maybe about being stuck in the house. Maybe you feel a little overwhelmed like Asaph did. He felt overwhelmed, and we're overwhelmed with everything that's going on. Are you restless? I know I've been restless these past couple weeks. Maybe you're having trouble sleeping. Your schedule's all off. Or maybe you're struggling to communicate with people properly. You know, you're not alone. Asaph was going through something similar in his emotions in his time. And Asaph begins in verse 7 to actually question God. He questions if God's mercy is gone forever, if He has forgotten His promises, if He has no more grace. He questions if because of God's anger that He has withheld His tender mercies. Have you ever questioned God? If we are honest, we can all say that at some time in our life we have, and maybe recently more people have than usual. But now I want to read to you what Asaph writes near the end of Psalm 77, and I'm going to begin at verse 10. And I said, "This is my infirmity, but I will remember the years of the right hand of the Most High. I will remember the works of the Lord. Surely I will remember thy wonders of old. I will meditate also of all thy work and talk of thy doings. Thy way, O God, is in the sanctuary. Who is so great a God as our God?" I want to talk to you today about one word: remember. I brought with me a book. This is Faith's baby book. And it has all of her birth information and facts in it, you know, how much she weighed and some pictures of that. And we call it her memory book. Now I have one of these for each of my children. And in the back of the books, they have a page or several pages that says my special memories. And I use those pages in my kids' books to write down, cute things that they said, funny words that they would say, the ways they would pronounce things, and like that. And that's what I use those pages for. For example, I'm going to tell you a couple things that I wrote down in Faith's. I wrote when Faith was 3 that she told me she was scared to sleep in her room because of all the spiders in her room. And so I told her, as I put her back in her own bed, that the next time she got scared, she needed to ask Jesus to help her to be brave. Well, about 5 minutes later, we heard a little voice from the bedroom yell at the top of her lungs, "Jesus!" Apparently she was still a little scared of those spiders. Oh, that was a cute memory. At 3.5, Faith had an imaginary friend named Nanya, and a memory I wrote down about that was one day we were in my room and Faith was supposed to be making a birthday picture for her papa, which is my dad, and we were going to give it to him for his birthday. Well, she kept looking over and saying stuff to someone. And so I asked her, "Who are you talking to?" And she said, "I'm talking to Nanya." And I said, "Oh, okay, where is she?" And she said, "She's behind the door, and she keeps telling me not to draw any pictures for Papa." Oh, that girl. She still has a great imagination, by the way. Another memory that I wrote down was that one day Liberty was taking a much-needed nap. And Liberty was not a good sleeper as a baby, so this was rare. And Faith went to the bedroom door, threw it open, stuck her head in, and yelled, "What's up, Liberty?" Well, needless to say, nap time was over. Those are some great memories that make me laugh so hard when I read them. I'm so thankful I wrote them down. I have 3 pages of cute things that Faith said that I would not remember if I hadn't written them down. In fact, I didn't remember them until a few days ago. I was going through her baby book and I looked in the back and, I remember that. Oh, she used to say that. And I started remembering because of what I had written down. Now, Liberty's baby book has a few things written down, but it only has 1 page. I didn't write as much for Liberty. But one thing that I did write was she used to call her cousin Darren Dee-Dong. And when he would come over, she'd follow him around and say, "Dee-Dong, Dee-Dong, Dee-Dong." It was so cute. And another one I wrote down was when she was 2, she was picking her nose. And I said, "Liberty, don't do that." And she said, "Mommy, I have sand in my nose." It was so cute. Now, for the boys, I only have a few sentences written down of things they said or cute things that made us laugh. I wrote down a few things, but not nearly as much as the girls. And I know I was busy, and that's why I was a mom of 4 kids that were 7 years and younger, and so I was very busy. I was very involved with music. But I regret that I did not make the time to write those things down because I won't remember them. I pull out the few things and go over them, but that's all that I remember of the cute things they said when they were little is what I wrote down in their books, and it's not very much. I have another book here, and this is called My Blessings Memory Book, and I have it at my house. And in here, I have written down some things that God has done for me that I want to remember. Psalm 103 verse 2 says, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits." I suggest that you read through all of Psalm 103. It is a great chapter about remembering God's goodness to us. It says we are not to forget, or might I say, we should remember that God forgives, he heals, he redeems, he gives us love, kindness, and mercy, and he provides, and so many other things that it tells us about. And I have some memories in my blessings book of God's provision and blessings in my life that I have written down. I would not remember some of those blessings if I had not written them down. Some in particular happened in the summer of 2013. My husband did not have a job. He was a school teacher, and so in the summertime, you don't have work, and he usually sold cars at Hilltop with a friend of his. But for some reason that I don't remember, he was not able to work there that summer, and he couldn't find anyone else to hire him for 2 months. They just weren't willing to do that. And so he didn't have a job. Well, we had 4 small children and no income, but God provided. I do not know how we made it through that summer, but we never went without a meal. And I wrote down many of the ways that God provided us for us that summer. God became very real to me that summer, and I'm so thankful for that time because it drew me closer to God. It made me realize that he is my God and provides for me. And I have a list of people that gave us food or money that summer and what they gave us. And I would write them down. As you can see here, I'd date it and I'd write what they gave us or what happened to show that God provides. And many of you that are watching this may be on that list, and you may not even know what an answer to prayer you were that summer to us. I want to tell one story quickly, maybe two, that reveals God cared for my family in such a special way that summer. One day, I only had 4 pieces of bread left. I had 4 kids, and I had some butter, so I was going to make them a half of a butter sandwich. I went in the backyard, and I found some apples that were growing on our apple tree. They probably weren't too ripe. They were pretty little, but that was all that I had to give them for lunch, and I was very troubled about that. I felt really terrible that that's all I had to give to my kids. And so I went into my bedroom, and I began crying, and I started praying to God, and I asked him to provide something to go with their half a sandwich and their apple. About 30 minutes after I finished praying, there was a knock on the door, and a UPS man had left a box at the door, and it was from my mom. We opened it up, and inside was the answer to my prayer, a big bag of chips and 4 fruit snack bags, one for each of my kids. You can call that a coincidence if you want, but I call that a miracle. Boxes usually take 4 to 5 days to come to me from Michigan. And when I called my mom to thank her, she said, "You got that box already? I only sent that 2 days ago." I believe that box was carried on angel's wings to my front door the very day that I needed it. I have many other stories written down in my memory book of God's provision, but I don't have time to share them. Why am I telling you all this? Psalm 105 verse 5 tells us to remember his marvelous works that he hath done. Don't forget what God has done for you. Psalm 143 verse 5 says, "I remember the days of old. I meditate on all thy works. I muse on the works of thy hands." And Psalm 145:7 says, "They shall abundantly utter the memory of thy great goodness." You know, I only remember about my kids what I wrote down in their memory books. I challenge you today. Make a memory book. Write down the things that God does for you and put it in a book. And then when you, like Asaph, maybe begin to question if God really cares for you. Does he really hear my cries? Can He really provide for my needs? Then you can pull out your book and you can remember. Remember that God took care of you in the past, and be comforted and know that He will take care of you today and in the future. And you can say, like Asaph, there is no God so great as our God. Remember.